Nothing is worse than playing a great video game that ends up getting cancelled after the second installment in the series. You love a game so much that you end up buying its sequel only to fall in love with it again. So you're ready to buy the third game in the series, or the threequel in this context, only for it to never come out. These are my top needed sequels of video games that were cancelled after their second game.
Go, 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 yo, go.
Zone of the Enders was a video game series created and produced by the legendary director Hideo Kojima. It was vastly different from the tactical espionage, stealth-heavy Metal Gear Solid series which Kojima was famous for. So sadly, it didn't capture many of his MGS players, but it did garner a wide audience of fans in its own right. Its gameplay was a high-octane hack-and-slash mech game, with anime-style character designs that focused on combat in space with mecha called orbital frames. It had that amazing, well-known presentation used in Metal Gear Solid games, from the font to the main menu, and the audio calls which harken back to the codec calls in MGS. The original Zone of the Enders was released on the PlayStation 2 in March 2001, and the sequel, Zone of the Enders: The Second Runner, was also released on the PS2 2 years later in 2003. It was one of the best looking PS2 games at the time. Zone of the Enders 2, however, is when the series really shined and started to look like it was heading in the right direction by finding its sweet spot with anime cutscenes and in-depth gameplay. Zone of the Enders 3 was announced way back in May 2012, and by the following year, the game had already been cancelled. The third game was already in the works at Konami, but it was cancelled after the low sales of the Zone of the Enders HD collection, as stated by Kojima Productions, which is a bummer. However, with the new rumors spreading around about Konami licensing its IPs or Sony buying Konami outright, it gives us a glimmer of hope for Zone of the Enders to get the much needed revival or threequel it needs.
Musashi.
Brave Fencer Musashi was created by Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy, and developed by Square Enix. It was released on October 31st, 1998. Brave Fencer Musashi was an action role-playing game with an isometric view that was dubbed the Zelda Killer, because the developers at the time wanted to make something similar to Zelda: A Link to the Past. However, that wasn't the case, because it was released alongside top hitters like Metal Gear Solid, Spyro, Crash, Pokemon Red and Blue, so yeah, the competition was fierce. This gave the game a very hard chance of becoming popular. I found out about this game through a demo disc my friend got me with his PlayStation, and I adored this game. It was a well voice acted game, action-packed, and very cool looking. There were gameplay elements like a day and night cycle in-game, where timing was very important for some side quests. There was an aging feature, where your character would get older as you play. These were new at the time, and there was nothing like it, at least in my experience. A really cool feature in the game that actually influenced my collecting habits today was a bare-bones toy collecting mechanic, where you can unlock action figures of characters within the game. You can keep the toys sealed, where they maintain their value if you want to sell it in-game, or you can open them and play with them. I normally would collect the toys in the game and then save. Then I would open up the toys to see what they do. Each toy came with an action or move that they did. I would then restart the game and start to save to have all the toys sealed again, like a true collector. If only we could do that in real life. I never opened up this Game Gear. As you can see, it's still sealed. Brave Fencer Musashi then got a sequel years later in the form of Musashi Samurai Legend for the PS2. It was more of a reimagining or reboot, but it was still labeled as the sequel in Japan as The Legend of Musashi 2 Blade Master. It didn't quite have the charm of the first Brave Fencer Musashi, but it had an interesting design and art style since it was helmed by Tetsuya Nomura, lead developer of Kingdom Hearts, and you could see the influence there. Musashi Samurai Legend had some great moments, great voice acting like the original, and a unique art style and presentation. However, we never got a third installment, sadly. This is a series I would love to see continue with a threequel. Mega Man Legends was a 3D action-adventure game with great-looking animations, full voice acting, and a rich story. Released for the PlayStation in December of 1997. Looking at the game today, it can obviously be seen as having a dated control scheme. But if you look past the controls, the game is a marvelous creation that uses all the assets of its time in a well-presented package. From fully animated facial expressions and voices, Mega Man Legends lets you explore the various dungeons and beautiful compact towns with a variety of weapons to choose from and dual wield. The amazing part is that Mega Man Legends was released a year before Metal Gear Solid, where we see full voice acting and animated cutscenes, and before Ocarina of Time, where we would get a lock-on feature which Mega Man Legends already did. Mega Man Legends 2 was only building on it, and it left us with a cliffhanger at the end. Like with the other games on the list, Mega Man Legends 3 was already in production for the 3DS. So far into production that there was leaked gameplay, and it looked great. You had a fleshed out world, great new movesets, faster gameplay, better models, vehicles, and new enemies. Sadly, the game never came to be and was cancelled. There was even an attempt by original creator Keiji Inafune to revive the corpse of Mega Man Legends as a whole with a reboot on Kickstarter. It was called Red Ash: The Indelible Legend. The caption read, "Running free in an anime-inspired game world, embark on a near-future sci-fi adventure in search of the legendary legacy." And guess what? It didn't get funded. It was so close, and I even backed it myself. If it was released at a later time, maybe it would have worked, but this was before funding on Kickstarter was even a popular thing. And with the mess of Mighty No. 9, also an offshoot of Mega Man, fans were skeptical on funding a game on Kickstarter. Later down the line, fans became more comfortable with Kickstarter, and then we went all in with Shenmue 3 as you saw. Which, believe it or not, was on a list on an earlier version of this video, because the Shenmue threequel we got was 21 years late. I was upset that this game didn't get the chance it deserved because I love Mega Man Legends. The series was incredible. There was a spin-off with Tronbon, but that wasn't really the threequel we all wanted. It was nice, but we wanted more. With all that said, it's not impossible for Capcom to revive or even give us the threequel for Mega Man Legends that we all have been clamoring for. They have been bringing back a lot of their IPs with great success, so never say never. Legacy of Kain: Soul Reaver was one of the most profound video games of the late 90s, early 2000s.
There's nothing I like more than a good, warm, cozy bath. In fact, I think I'll just turn this heater up a little bit.
What a bonehead. But at least he got to keep his soul. Introducing a world where you take more than life. You take the soul. Soul Reaver.
Never has there been a game series quite like this. Financially and critically acclaimed, and not a failure in the slightest. Yet it found itself gone to the test of time. Soul Reaver had immaculate writing and voice acting, teetering on the likes of Shakespeare, with complex, compelling narratives and tragic characters.
Are we not indivisible? As long as a single one of us stands, we are legion.
It was a philosophical journey of eloquent wordplay that was ubiquitous and flowed with the motives and depths of the characters. Not only did you understand the characters, but you also felt them.
Soul Reavers, together, and the scion of balance is healed. And I am not your enemy, not your destroyer. I am, as before, your right hand, your sword.
No, Raziel, this can't be the way.
This was thanks to the writings of Richard Lemarque, Jim Curry, and Amy Hennig, who also directed the Soul Reaver sequel. Yes, Amy Hennig, the genius mind behind the Uncharted series and many other games. Soul Reaver is a third-person action-adventure game where you take control of a vampire-turned-wraith named Raziel. It is sort of a hack-and-slash game with finishing moves letting you absorb the souls of the creatures you killed, with various abilities that you can use to complete puzzles and take down the corrupted vampire brethren who were there in an act of seeming jealousy. Kain tears the bones from Raziel's wings and has him thrown into a lake of the dead. A story of both revenge and deception. Soul Reaver actually had a third installment in the works, but you guessed it, it was cancelled. There is footage of this, and although it doesn't look anything like the first two, it was quickly cancelled.
You're not real. This is your body. I kill me, kill you. You'll die for what you have done.
What do we have here?
There have been rumors of a remaster floating around, and this might be it. Square Enix sold the rights to Soul Reaver and many of their other IPs to a company named Embracer for $300 million. Quite low if you ask me, and hopefully they embrace these franchises and give new life to all, if not most, of these games. Half-Life was developed by Valve, which was founded by Gabe Newell, a small indie company that is now worth billions of dollars. Yes, that's with a B. Half-Life was the reason Valve was put on the map. It was Valve's first product in 1998 for Windows, which was wildly successful. The series really shined with Half-Life 2, released in 2004, which showed great ways you can use physics against your enemies. It was an interactive experience like no other, with incredible storytelling and fun, tight, first-person controls and shooting gameplay. You played as a scientist named Gordon Freeman, who has to fend off an alien invasion. And with Gordon being a scientist, it was a breath of fresh air from the constant buff, muscular, tough guys we were used to in so many previous action games. There were no narrative-driven first-person shooters quite like it at the time. We did get Half-Life Alyx in March of 2020, and I'd say that was perfect timing because of the lockdowns during 2020. It was an exclusive for VR headsets, which had stellar reviews. A revolutionary game in the VR space. Quite arguably the best VR game out to date. It utilized all assets of virtual reality in an incredible creative and immersive way. Half-Life Alyx was the 7th installment in the series if you count the episodes and expansions. But it wasn't Half-Life 3, which is what we all want. In my opinion, I feel that Half-Life 3 is Valve's trump card. And once they start to feel a struggle, they will throw Half-Life 3 as an exclusive to the updated Steam Deck. Maybe. Whatever the case, we would like a next-gen Half-Life 3, please. Remember how Rare had Nintendo shook with their incredible side-scrolling Donkey Kong Country trilogy? Well, they did it again with Banjo-Kazooie as a 3D platformer. Nintendo couldn't believe there was a 3D platform on par with their very own Super Mario 64, where some even considered it to be better. Banjo-Kazooie was one of the most loved and revered N64 franchises of its time, developed by Rare, formerly known as Rareware, who have also developed games like Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong 64, Perfect Dark, Diddy Kong Racing, Killer Instinct, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and of course, GoldenEye 64. Banjo was followed up by the sequel Banjo-Tooie. It retained all the amazing 3D platforming, characters, new character abilities, countless minigames, and collectibles galore. Banjo-Kazooie never saw a true threequel. Instead, it got Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts when Rare was acquired by Microsoft. It was okay, but it wasn't a Banjo-Kazooie platformer. There was a spiritual successor that the original Banjo team made called Yooka-Laylee. Currently, Microsoft has been very smart with its gaming division and playing nice with Nintendo. Not so long ago, Banjo-Kazooie was allowed to be on Super Smash Bros., which gave hope to a lot of Banjo-Kazooie fans. On top of that, Banjo-Kazooie N64 was also launched on Nintendo Switch Online. Remember, Microsoft still owns Banjo and Rare, so to see them give permission to Nintendo like this, it's a step in a good direction. And maybe one day, we'll see the true Banjo 3 we've all been waiting for.
That treasure is known as the Power Stone.
Many of you might not know about this Capcom brawler classic, Power Stone, an incredibly fun 3D brawler with an isometric perspective released in 1999 for the Sega Dreamcast. It was actually in arcades too. The first Power Stone was more of a one-on-one fighter with combos, specials, and supers. It was a frenzy when matches began because, like Smash Bros, you had many items and weapons dropped into the map that you can use in battles, from rocket launchers, swords, and more. When you collect the 3-color Power Stones, you would then turn into your super form, where you had super attacks that would drain your energy bars, and a final super that would drain all your bars. And if they connected, they were pretty devastating. You were able to use the open environment as a weapon, throwing chairs and tables, climbing poles for awesome combo attacks. In Power Stone 2, the game supported 4 players and became more of a party brawler, with less emphasis on one-on-one combos and more on platforming. It had an adventure mode with 2-player co-op, complete with bosses to defeat. I'm telling you, Power Stone did many things before Super Smash Bros. Did. And in Power Stone 2, the items were increased, and you were even able to fuse and craft weapons to make even more powerful ones. The levels were dynamic and even changed mid-match as you were fighting. You would be fighting on a flying ship that explodes mid-match, where you skydive, fight in the sky to grab an umbrella to have a safe, soft landing, because if you don't, well, you'll land with some major damage, continuing the battle down below. These 2 titles were extremely fun, and both had their merits. Surprisingly, this is one of the Capcom games that has just disappeared. There was a collection released on the PSP handheld, which I have here. So to see an HD remaster on consoles and PC would be incredible, and I can imagine this would be loads of fun for the Switch crowd, because after that, we definitely need a threequel in this series. These games were very unique and hold up very well today. I can see Power Stone having that energy and maybe adding Capcom characters like Mega Man, Resident Evil, Street Fighter, and more. It can be Capcom's very own 3D brawler similar to Nintendo's Super Smash Bros. With Capcom's current fighting collections it's been releasing lately, I have a good feeling this game will get a re-release very soon. This game needs no introduction. Just by the music alone, you know where I'm going with this one. Sonic Adventure. Another classic from the Sega Dreamcast era, released on December 23, 1998. And oh, what a time it was. Sonic Adventure was the first game I played on my Dreamcast. It was part of a Dreamcast bundle, along with Sonic Shuffle, a Mario Party-like game with Sonic characters, and Sonic Adventure 2, the demo. It also came with a blue VMU. The Sonic Adventure series was my first experience with Sonic in a 3D world, and it was awesome. You had a world to explore, secrets to unlock, and many characters to choose from. The game is definitely dated by today's standards, especially with its bugs, but it was a 3D Sonic done right. Awesome music and great set pieces, it was just a fun time. As a kid, I always wanted a 3D Sonic just like this, and I got it. And then I started dreaming of a black hedgehog. Black is my favorite color, and I wanted a black Sonic. And then Sonic Adventure 2 came along. When that was announced, oh man, let me tell you, when you're a kid whose wish came true for the most beloved game, my mind was blown. So much so that my friend bought me a copy for my birthday. He wanted me to experience it on launch day since he knew my parents bought me games late in their cycles. And I'm really grateful for that, thank you. Sonic Adventure 2 did away with the whole world exploring, which bummed me out back then, but it really amped up the action and got straight to the point. It also had a Chow Garden, and we all needed those. What I loved about the Sonic Adventure series was that they were set in a world with humans. I know for some it's weird, but for me, I love that. Which kind of grounded the characters for me, making it easier for you to kind of relate to the situations these characters were in. The stakes were high, and the stories were deep, and I loved that. Sonic Adventure 3 is a much-needed sequel to an amazing series. Sonic 06 was considered to be Adventure 3 by some, but in Adventure 2, Shadow died, so to me that didn't make sense. Yes, There was a story of how he came back to life in Sonic Heroes, but that didn't work for me. We have Sonic Frontiers coming out, and I have to say I am so excited for that game. It seems to be taking a lot of risks. And it's also being very ambitious, which Sega and Sonic Team were widely known for back then, and that's something that will always make them great. So here's hoping that with the success of Sonic Frontiers, we get a Sonic Adventure 3. But Sega, please release a Sonic Adventure HD collection on the Nintendo Switch. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to hit that like button, and if you would like to support me for more videos just like this, my Patreon is linked below, and I hope you go there and support. Let me know what threequels you would like to see someday, and if there were any titles that I should have added to my list. Comment below. Until next time, I'll see you later.